has come back from the brink, it's fair to say. That injury being knocked off his bike in Japan. He's a superhero, a superhuman effort.
What a journey, like what a journey. This, I would honestly have to think this, I couldn't think of a bigger comeback in sports.
I think he just started looking at the sport maybe like a bit different as well. Like, I think it's the first time for him that he actually had to work for something so hard to come back for something. So I think that even made him get more and more motivation to actually be good in his sport, as he had to redo it just from zero again. So I think actually in that case, the injury might have helped him becoming a better athlete.
It is one of the most impressive, career-threatening comebacks that I've ever seen. And for that, he deserves all the plaudits and credits that he's getting, and you know, fair play to him. It's been just incredible.
Sunday.
So yeah. 9 days.
Then we have another at least 2 or 3 days with the futures.
Yeah, because that was the question, is I wanted to more so if I had to get this redone, be a bit more time out of the swimming pool.
Turn over every stone in his quest to be the best in the world, and that is what this quest is.
My name is Simon Bailiff, and I am Hayden Wilde's manager. I guess you always like to start off the season with a win, which Hayden did. So yeah, it was a very positive start. It was good to be there at that race, supporting Hayden. And it was the perfect start to the season, to be honest with you.
Hayden Wilde, but he's safely got this race in his pocket as he comes onto the blue carpet, and he is going to finish. He's going to start 2025 exactly the same way he finished 2024, with a World Triathlon Championship Series victory. He wins the opener. Matt Hauser a gallant second, and Vasco Velasa, no one anywhere near him. He can coast home for third. And 3 of the class acts in the field are going to be on the podium in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, so starting relatively early, coming off 2024, was in February. And yeah, obviously it was the first time with a brand new team, so that brought a little bit of stress into kind of heading into that race, and yeah, wanting to perform and you know, showing myself that I made the right decision of yeah, just looking to start something new into the preparation into LA, and to finish the WTCS with a bang, and coming in first was super nice. Being based out there also for a few months as well was nice heading into that, and yeah, felt real strong, and yeah, hopefully that was the start of a special season post the Olympic Games. I spent a few months, a month in altitude, and then just signed with Essex, decided to go over and race a 10K, which they were releasing a brand new shoe. So I was pretty excited to meet the team and do a bit of a 10K at the same time, and then spend some months in Japan, 1 month exactly in altitude again, to finish off that prep before Yokohama World Series. Doing a pretty decent race on the 3rd of May, and then yeah, was pretty stoked, got a PB and ran the 27 mid, so that was really like exciting to see the kind of mids, the pre-season going really well in the altitude post Andorra. And then yeah, woke up the next day to go for a bit of a bike ride before I was heading up to do a bit of a training camp before Yokohama, and yeah, 8 minutes into that ride was hit by a truck, and from there it was game over essentially in some points of my season.
I think it was 5 a.m. in the morning in Belgium. I woke up and I just looked at my phone just to check the time, and I saw that I got like 3 missed calls from Hayden. And I was like, oh, that's a bit strange, because like he knows I'm in Belgium, so with the time difference, he knows I'm asleep. So I was like, oh, this isn't right. So like I opened my phone, and then I see that he sent me the photos of the crash, and I was like, oh, that is not good. So yeah, I just called him straight away, and then it was pretty clear that from then on, like, the injuries were pretty bad. And he told me he had to be there for 2-3 weeks, that he was stuck in Tokyo. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna book a flight, like the next morning I'm going up there, because like he was all alone there. So just to be in like a foreign country, not speaking the language, being there all alone, in pain, I just knew I had to be there. So for me, it was a pretty easy choice to just book a flight straight away and just hop onto the flight to Tokyo.
I was one of the first people he called from the side of the road. Obviously, it's pretty distressing hearing a client and a friend call in that sort of distressed situation, knowing that he was in a lot of pain, knowing he had a really serious accident, and being thousands and thousands of miles away. My first thought actually was, from what he'd explained to me, is that was this the end of his career as a triathlete? Maybe seem a little bit overdramatic, but when you think about how important a shoulder girdle is for a triathlete, you soon come to realize that actually once you do a lot of damage, and the damage that Hayden done was a lot of damage, you start to question whether or not he's going to get back to the levels he was at previously.
After seeing the photos, seeing his shoulder being shattered in 3 places, hearing that he had a punctured lung and stuff, I realized pretty straight away that it was pretty bad. If we couldn't get him out of Tokyo in time, it might have been like career ending. So I think that was the most stressful part of it, like just get him out of Tokyo, or just like even try to get him a surgery. That was like the most stressful part. So yeah, I kind of knew from the start it was pretty bad.
He was lying in his hospital bed, and we had a very funny conversation, which was high risk for a manager, but I saw there may be an opportunity amongst, I guess, the darkness, a bit of a yin and yang moment. I pitched the idea to him of launching his YouTube channel off the back of filming his road to recovery, as we called it, and in typical Hayden fashion, he was really open to it, even though he was at the lowest moment in his career. He was really open to it, and if it was done right, that he would really embrace it and, I guess, open the world up to what that journey could look like.
A bit of a punctured lung, 6 broken ribs, and pretty messed up scapula on my left side. And we're in a bit of a situation where it was essentially career threatening. I couldn't get the surgery within 2 weeks in Japan, so we had to get onto a medical emergency flight to Belgium a week later, which was a pretty big process to go through, but thankfully we got there in the end, and took myself to Belgium for an operation, which was a successful one, but obviously a long process, 5 hours of operating, and now that leads me into kind of where I am now. I feel like I'm like my deathbed. But yeah, this is the setup. Happy days. All right, guys, we're here in APC, here in Austria, and in a little town just outside of Austria, out of Salzburg. And we're here for day 1 of recovery with Red Bull. And then my first time actually to try running since the injury, so we'll try and they've got an Ultra-G here, so we're going to go and see how the ribs deal with a bit of weight on and go for it. So busy day, but hopefully we can see some improvements throughout the last few weeks. Let's go and get it.
I genuinely, in 3 decades of working with talent, I've never seen such drive and focus from an individual to recover from an injury as serious as that. He shattered his shoulder blade, and for someone that needs that as part of their job, it's pretty serious. And I've just never seen such dedication, and I was blown away, to be honest with you, because genuinely there were times when I questioned whether he would ever get back to racing at the highest level again. And I'm certain there were times in his darkest moments where he questioned it too.
Yeah, I think it taught me, like, it's good to have a break, as, obviously recovering from the operation and having that time off. It was the first time in many years that I've had that many weeks off, which was in some ways probably a blessing in disguise as well. Just looking after yourself in a way of rehabilitation, not just after injuries or crashes, but probably through the years, looking after yourself a lot more. And the SNC side, it can do so much for you. You might not be able to see that, but it really speaks volumes through the whole season, and increments of your performance can improve from that as well. So, and just like, I think also how good your team is around you as well. I feel like, obviously bits and pieces you see your team working really hard for you, but when it comes, when push comes to shove, and you can see the whole team working together, it was really cool to see that. The recovery process was pretty full on. It was a good 4 or 5 weeks in Austria APC, and more or less, first day in there was obviously getting the scans and the MRIs and the X-rays and getting all this sorted, but then straight into mostly therapy sessions. In the morning we'll do a physio session, more kind of mobility to wake up the body and get the shoulder moving, do some SNC through the midday, and then obviously every day was getting better and better, so you would kind of implement maybe a bike or a run, and maybe just a pedal in the water with a single arm and a bit of kicking, and then that afternoon have another physio session. And it was pretty much, get up at 7, finish at 6, and repeat that for 4 or 5 weeks. So it was pretty intense, but it was but if you're kind of up for it and you're optimistic of the outcome, I think it was it was probably the right thing to do. And if you've been offered all these facilities and the access to all this kind of high-tech stuff, you might as well take it, as you obviously want to get healthy as fast as possible. So if there's things that can help promote that kind of recovery process, you take it. So it was hard work, but it was well paid off. No, actually didn't see anything. No. Just leave them in. Team, we're here, first time in the pool in just over 3 weeks, and see how it goes. Today we'll just be doing some kicking, doing some aqua jogging, and pretty much do it until I get bored. So see how it goes. Can hardly get a cap on, so we'll see. You have the screen.
Hayden's progress is really good at the moment. He is very independent in any strength session, in any physio sessions he's doing, and that helps a lot. So he's always looking out for challenges to push himself, and yeah, at the moment I think his mobility is better than it should be, more or less, and that makes me quite happy. He doesn't have many problems with the shoulders, so yeah, super good progress at the moment.
No such thing as a setback.
Sweet. Minutes out open water. Felt nice to get back into the Hayden Wilde limited edition wetsuit. But no, it was nice. Water temp was actually pretty good for the start of the season, so it's nice. Now just got to figure out how to get out of this thing. Normally it's a lot easier, but can't use a lot of force. We will hopefully go into the hospital. We meet the lung specialist, and then he will tell me whether I'm gonna die or not. Whether I have, because he said well, I actually still have no clue what's going on, but yeah, we'll get the fluid out. Whether it will be natural, injected out, or operated out. Obviously, naturally is always nice, but I think if I want to get back to 100% a bit faster, the injection will probably be ideally. Operation not ideal. But the injection, yeah, they just put local anesthetic in, and then slap a big old needle in my back and pop it out. Happy days. I need as much lung capacity as I can get, so
can imagine,
yeah, I guess that's why we made the appointment with you to see what the best outcome is. Obviously, ideally not surgery.
What's the difference? Left diaphragm is a little bit higher than it is used to be. This is normal after a trauma, especially if you have fluid in the thorax. Mm-hmm. And the movement of the diaphragm. Do you have any feeling that the breathing is not completely normal on either side? Okay. And this is a little bit of fluid inside the thorax. This triangle here. So, if I would measure this, this is, yeah, it's very little. It's maybe 200 centiliters. Oh, right. So it sounds a lot, but this is not much.
Yeah.
I think I spoke with my physios in Belgium, and they were actually very convinced that they were getting him back into the game, like at the end of the summer. So after hearing that, like, we didn't tell him yet. So that was kind of like a secret in between us that we thought he would be okay racing again. But I think at the start of July, like, I could see he was improving a lot, like in all three disciplines. And I could see just like his eager of getting to the start line was getting bigger and bigger. So I think, at the start of the summer, I think that was the point that he just switched his mind of like, I want to make that start line. He just started looking at the sport maybe like a bit different as well. Like, I think it's the first time for him that he actually had to work for something so hard to come back for something. So I think that even made him get more and more motivation to actually be good in his sport, as he had to redo it just from zero again.
If everything was extremely smooth and the body was playing ball, we could probably get to London. We don't know what fitness it would be, but to get to London would be the goal. But if not, we'd kind of aim for another one after that. But to get to London was super special, and knowing that I was in good form on the bike and the run, and the swim still for sure had a question mark, but I kind of put to myself, like, if it's 2 minutes out of the water, you know, that's okay. If it was 90 seconds, like it's a really good day. And then if I was in the front group, yeah, that'd be quite special. And yeah, coming out of the water was, you know, in that kind of that 130, 120 mark where I thought I'd kind of be more or less, and I was with some really strong people, and to get on the bike and just feeling, I guess, that extra motivation, that adrenaline rush of being back into the race and being competitive, and then kind of marching through the bike and getting off on the run. And those legs kind of, yeah, they felt super good and super fresh, just having, as I said, having all that time off, but also having that time to strengthen the body with SNC and kind of having a much more longer build than just racing. It kind of gave me, I think, that a little bit more of an edge heading into London.
Wearing number 37 from New Zealand, Singapore T100 2025 champion, Olympic silver and bronze medalist, Hayden Wilde. New Zealand, Hayden Wilde having another good swim right here, right now.
The bucket, the bike out of the rack seat. Yuri Kulin from the Netherlands. Carl Smith now heads out.
With Hayden, we sort of don't know what we're going to see at any point in this race. We didn't know how he was going to swim. We weren't sure how he was going to ride. And we certainly don't know how he's going to run. What we do know is that he would not be here if he didn't think he could compete. But we don't know what we're going to see. We don't know exactly where Hayden's at. And I guess that makes it more exciting.
How's this guy beatable? I mean, he took on a truck, came off second best clearly, but he's not coming off second best to any triathlete at the moment.
How does he look? Good. Yeah.
Hayden looks smooth. He's got his composure for now. He's got his very typical running style. Yeah, it's just amazing. He looks like he did 4 months ago.
He's just sitting behind, isn't he?
It's not the Lucy Charles Barkley tactic of blowing straight by, is it? He's taking a moment to just recover and sit there on Rico's shoulder into the headwind. Such a professional and classy performance from him.
Week out. So Hayden Wilde, thumbs up from the crowd. A punctured lung, broken ribs, an injured scapula, all within the space of a few months. He's on the blue carpet, and perhaps the emotion starting to show, because this Kiwi athlete is built of something quite extraordinary. Hayden Wilde, 2 wins from 2 in the T100 this year. What an incredible, logic-defying performance.
We'd had a call with his performance group, his 3 coaches, and myself and Hayden, the week before T100 London to make a final decision on whether or not he was going to compete. And that was based on a couple of really key training sessions that his coaches wanted to get through. And how we got through those and responded to those, the data that came out of that informed him and the group as to whether he was going to compete. So that was the moment, and I watched him glide through that race, and it was really impressive, really impressive, and it was everything that he deserved, to be honest with you. If people had seen just what he'd done behind closed doors, they just wouldn't believe it. And you know, the YouTube series just showed probably 30% of what he did, and so he got what he deserved, and that was the moment. And you could tell from his reaction that in the finish shoot, just I think he had a big realization as well, because he's not usually very emotional, but you could see at the finish of T100 London he was extremely emotional.
When Hayden Wilde enters a start line, he's just not there for just participation. So I knew deep down that he wanted to win that race, even though he didn't really have to at all. So yeah, I knew he was fit and ready to race, but it's still like, it was still very stressful, and because nobody kind of knew like where he was at that point. Just seeing him actually doing it and winning that race, that was pretty special. Nobody really wants to have a crash like that, but just looking back to 2 months earlier, like seeing him in that hospital into Tokyo and then seeing him win the race, I think wasn't really a relief. I think it was just a very magical moment for everyone, I think.
Yeah, like obviously when you start and you get that confidence, it becomes a snowball effect, and you get, and you get confidence in your body, back in your body, and and you pretty much just tell yourself, if you're within this amount of time on the swim, and you get onto the bike, you're going to be in a good place. And I was more or less always about 30 seconds to 1 minute behind, which was always a good sweet spot, and it didn't take me too long to catch up on the bike. So then it kind of gives you more confidence, in the front of the race, and all you have to do is do what you can, and whether that's be aggressive off the front or play your cards closer to your chest and reserve a little bit, and then use your superpower on the run to kind of execute that win. But it was just kind of lining up and then just going through the processes of the race and just doing one thing by one thing, and going out of those races and going back into the training camp and kind of reassessing with the coaches to see what we can do better. We were trying to nitpick everything and be better in certain sectors of the race, and that was kind of our goal. It wasn't really focused too much on the win, so to speak, but more of the performance and how that looked like, and minimizing mistakes throughout the race. Yeah, I feel like we're the position that I was in the races, and obviously the circumstances of the season, it was just like racing with a bit of freedom and then just enjoying being back racing. And yeah, it's a big supercar to have this side of racing without fear, and going into those races with a lot of confidence, and having that snowball effect of having the performances and backing it up with the results is always, obviously always definitely helps within the race. And yeah, you just go in and having a good time, and it's a new distance for me, and you're just loving it, and you're winning, and you're performing well. So it's kind of just, it snowballs on each other.
He's the Prince Riviera T100 champion of 2025 and the undefeated.
It's really impressive. He's found like a sweet spot in this distance. He's a super strong biker. He's a super strong runner. his swimming needs work. It's not a secret, and off the back of a really serious injury that he hasn't fully recovered from. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to be done in the off season to get his shoulder back to 100%, as we've seen from the Olympic distance racing he's done.
I think just seeing him succeed in like where he put so much time in just like effort in, like I think it's just very nice to just see all that effort actually like just gets rewarded. So he's a racer, but just to do it over and over again, like it's easier said than done. So yeah, I think he can just be very proud of what he did this season.
What do I think winning the grand final will mean for Hayden? Well, I think it will really, really powerfully close out a chapter in his career book that could have been written very, very differently. And I think in the season after the Olympics, it's always important for athletes to have a bit of a mental reset. And I think he needed to be doing something different. And this has definitely been that. And he has absolutely loved racing T100. I really think it's a brilliant distance for him, and obviously longer as well in the future, for sure. The focus now will turn to LA 28, of course it will. An Olympic distance will become the focus again. But I just think it's not a surprise at all. You know, I know the man, I know the athlete, and I think it would be insulting if I said I'm surprised. I just think it crystallizes what a lot of people know, that right now you would have to argue that he's one of the greatest triathletes in the world. I don't think it's a habit, but I just think in his mind he'll be thinking there have been hiccups in grand finals before where he could have done something better or done something differently, and something's not gone quite right for him. And it's not happened at every grand final, of course. In Torremolinos, you know, he delivered majorly well. I just think for any athlete, it's about muscle memory and winning big races, big championship finals. And I think that you build your superpower as an athlete that can deliver in the big moments in your career. And that's fundamentally how all the greatest triathletes or athletes in any sport really are defined, is that they find ways to win in the biggest moments, the high pressure moments. So I think he's deeply motivated by being world champion. I think Hayden wants to leave his mark, and I think he's just deeply, deeply driven to do that.
You know, being in Abu Dhabi and training in a place where we're real comfortable with, you know, being back in our CF. I've been going there for the last 3 years. I felt comfortable, I felt homely, and you're just looked after really well. You know the pools, you know the training routes, and you know how to get the work done and what's going on. So to be back in Abu Dhabi, kind of just like at the start of the year, it was really nice. And to dial in, heading into Qatar, you know, I knew what I needed to do. Just needed to be consistent, and there's nothing special. You know, you're already racing well, and the performance was becoming. So it was just being consistent and getting out, getting used to the heat, and kind of preparing yourself and not overdoing it before you kind of head into Qatar 3 weeks' time.
So my name is John Larkins, and I'm the Director of Sport here at Abu Dhabi Cricket and Sports Hub. Lucky enough to have Mr. Wilde here with us today. Privileged, I suppose, is a word that I'd use. We're very lucky that being in the centre of the world, we get a number of Kiwis come through, and when I heard that Hayes was looking for somewhere to swim and somewhere to run, we put our hand up and did our best to make things as comfortable for him as possible, and he must like it because he's here most mornings and most nights. So it's pretty cool to be able to come out and watch an athlete who was at the top of his game representing a place that I'm awfully proud of. And I'm looking forward to watching him next week, and I'm sure that he'll take away the gold.
Woo! Check this out. Got full air conditioning, got surround sound, got a horn. Let's see if we can make this baby work.
Been upgraded.
Whee!
Every start line, he toes the line. He wants to win that race, and I think that never really changed.
Yeah, so going into Qatar, the race for us, we were just looking to just have our best race out there, and for us that was kind of to minimize the deficit out of the water, and I felt like I did a pretty good job with that coming out of the water, and we decided to go in the middle of the pontoon this time. Normally, we're looking at going on the outside, but we want to go on the middle of the pontoon just to see what happened there. And for us, it worked really well.
Thank you.
Wearing number 31 from New Zealand, Hayden Wilde.
coming out of transition onto the bike. You know, we're only about 20 seconds off the group, got with the back of the group, and yeah, made quick work of getting back at the back of the group. Only about 5 minutes into the race, so the sort of course really suited me in a sense of how the technicalities sectors were, but it definitely was one of the hardest rides we've done, especially when you kind of get on those flat, long highway sections. It was really hard to stay within the guys on the fronts, especially, you know, they're a lot bigger than you, so they're pushing, you know, these big watts relatively easy, and you've got to obviously try and match that or be as aerodynamic as possible. So it was really hard. So, you know, I was just trying to use my strengths within the race with the technical section, and they were obviously using their strengths within the race. But you know, I was really glad the legs turned up on the bike, and it was feeling really good throughout the race. And yeah, I just kept looking back, and I could see that more and more athletes were dropping off the back with the certain pace that Rico and Martis were applying on the front, and I was able to contribute to a little bit of that as well for the technical sections. And from there was only about 3-4 of us off the front, and we were able to get a good gap off Yeller and Morgan, and then from there, you know, we would go into the run and started to get to work. Yeah, the legs felt pretty fatigued on the first lap, but you know, that was just from how much we kind of pushed on the bike to kind of get away from the rest of the field, and then from there, yeah, we were just kind of getting into my own zone and just thinking about my own race and going at my own pace, and you know, from there, every lap, obviously extending, and was really happy, and the body was feeling pretty good. And coming into the last lap, I had about a minute 40, minute 50 coming into the last lap, so at that point, I kind of knew that, you know, obviously everything was tied up for the series in a sense of, you know, was quite a far way back, and the only way, obviously, if that could kind of unravel this would be, you know, if I pulled something in the muscular or something like that. So just had to kind of keep with my rhythm and make sure I didn't overdo it, and make sure I was fueling up, and was able to make it to the end of the finish line. And yeah, for me, it was really happy with the race, and executed it the way I wanted it to go, and yeah, it was consistent on the run, and one of the fastest T1s as well. So I was really happy with how the body responded, also being that late in the year as well.
Calm and collected all year on the T100. The man has come back from the brink, it's fair to say. That injury being knocked off his bike in Japan. He's a superhero, a superhuman effort from this Kiwi athlete. Hayden Wilde, our T100 World Champion.
Just looking at the whole season, you know, my goal was to do well in the World Series and be a title contender there. And obviously Abu Dhabi, it started off really well. Then obviously the crash kind of really pushed the World Series away from me, and which wasn't competitive against those guys in the water. And you need to be competitive in the draft legal racing. So my eyes kind of really set on T100 of how I can really kind of, use my strengths into the race. And you know, if you have a bad swim, it's not a be all end all. You can't win the race from a swim in a T100, but you can for sure lose it. But it's not as important as a World Series. So, you know, I was really able to show my strengths on the bike and the run, and to kind of do that day in, day out, and race on race was really kind of, it's really nice and appealing to an athlete that's always looking to succeed for sure. And to have that kind of momentum heading into race to race to race, and kind of the athletes looking at you as the person to beat, and being the hunted is a privileged place to be in, and it kind of gives you the opportunity to also be able to be the guy that can control the race too. So to have that kind of, I guess, aura in a sense is really nice to head into those races and being able to kind of have that, I guess, that power move within the race. And yeah, obviously with the crash and how that affected the whole season, it was just really nice to be able to race and be able to race at the top level again, and to take that tape, it was more of a relief, as obviously I had a big target on my back at the start of the season, and to kind of finish it off and be able to finish a series and be consistent through the whole year, and taking 6 from 7 wins from start line, it was pretty special.
A lot of athletes in his position wouldn't have achieved as much as he would have achieved, because he just worked so hard for what he really wanted. So he just really believed from like the first day that he could be back at the top of the game. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm just most proud of. You don't really see it often, and he doesn't really show it often as well, but there's definitely some pressure coming from the outsides to just over and over get down those good results. So I think it's just, for all of us, like, nice to just end the season on a high and just be able to take some time off and relax for a bit, and then we'll do it all over again next year without a crash, hopefully.
He will definitely need to go away over the off-season and work hard. He needs to work hard, he knows that, and I know he will, because he does that all the time. He'll be coming back a lot stronger on the swim side. He will get his shoulder back up to 100% again, which just needs some dedicated S&C, which we will do and he knows about. But I think it's going to be, with World Triathlon and T100 working a bit more closely together and making the calendar a bit easier for athletes to combine both, I think you'll see Hayden doing what Hayden does, which is he loves racing. Loves racing too much sometimes, but he loves racing, and that's what people like from him. They know what they're going to get from him. He's going to attack and he's going to go after it, and he will do that again next year. So it'll be a combination of World Triathlon Championship Series races and T100, but all obviously, like most of these athletes now, starting to turn the lighthouse towards LA in 2028, because that's going to come very fast, and qualification cycles will start coming soon as well, and so we need to start to turn our thoughts towards that. So yeah, it's exciting. It's going to be really exciting, and it's just going to get a bit faster.
Yeah, I think heading into next year, I can't use that excuse too much anymore. I'll be racing 1 year after the crash, pretty much, from when I line up next time. So it'll be nice to line up and not have that kind of question mark over the head of having a crash. I think it'll still take a little bit more time to get to 100% on the swim, but it's always been my weakness, and this might be an opportunity for me to use this opportunity to have the realization that I really do need to upskill my swim, and if I really want to perform at LA, I need to be on the top of my game in the swim sector. So it's just giving me more fire and something to aim for, to be better at. And I know I need to be better heading into the World Series next year, so it's going to make me hungry. And then obviously I still want to do T100 and have that part of my schedule, so I'm looking forward to getting into the racing. And yeah, I feel like I can definitely be a lot better than I was this year due to the crash. So I'm looking forward to next year and just being more stronger and kind of aiming for that front group in the water, and then being able to use my strengths in the bike and the run on the front of the race instead of playing a little bit of catch up at the start. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully can have a bit more of a smoother year next year.
It was a beautiful moment to just close off the chapter of like his big crash, and hopefully next year he can just race as Hayden Wilde, the triathlete again, and not Hayden Wilde, the guy that crashed in Tokyo.